Welcome to Paul Lawson Chats, a podcast for helpers. In each episode, we'll hear stories from folks from various companies and organizations who are making a real difference by bringing positive change and infusing radical good into their workplaces, communities, and world. All right, hey all, it's Paul. Today I am joined by a dear friend, a dear colleague, Kara McCaffrey of Houck. I am so excited to have her on today. She and I have been very connected through Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. We're both on the think tank for the Pathways model. We got connected through the legendary Sonia Bowman. Our paths have just crossed so many times, and we talk all the time, and I really see her as one of the owners of the movement up in the north region of the United States. That's how I see Kara. So I'm so excited to have her on today. Kara, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here with you, Paul.
Oh my gosh.
How are you?
I'm well. We've been, so you have two boys.
Yes.
I have two boys. So my family has been just wiped out by some daycare plague for the last week, and we're just now kind of getting back into it. And I assume you guys go through this as well, I assume.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
The struggles of a working parent in daycare, but so many positives about it. But yeah, it's tough when they bring home sicknesses.
Remind me how old your boys are again.
Almost 10. So Dean's turning 10 in August, and then Miles is 5. So he's the one who gets sick more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got Mose, who's 9, who's going to be 9 here this month, and then we have Bear, who's 2, and Bear is like a germ rake. He just brings it home all the time, but it's all right. It's all part
Better
of
immunity when they're older, I think, from it.
I know their immune system's going to be like studied. I'm hoping someday because of what all they've come into contact with, but no. So you know that life. So anyway, yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I am so excited to talk with you today, and I'm so excited to introduce some folks in my community to you in the work that you're doing, because I think the work that you do in our industry is powerful and sincere, and it's coming from a very genuine and real place, and we're going to talk about why that is. But I want to give
sweet, and I would say the same thing back to you.
That's what, like, you and I are very, very kindred spirits. Like, you and I, like we hit it off immediately, like as soon as we got connected. I
remember meeting you for the first time in person. Just like, I loved your bear hug. I just like immediately felt connected to you.
You got the bear hug. Yeah, that is. I'm a huggy person. So if anybody knows me, that is, it's how I am. It's who I am. It's how my dad is. That's how my parents are. So, okay. So you're with Houck. You guys are up in Madison, Wisconsin. You're in Madison, Wisconsin. Houck is where?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So that's where Houck is headquartered. So you're in a remote role as chief wellness officer, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Not every construction company has a chief wellness officer.
Yeah, I feel lucky that we do. Yeah.
So, and that to me is part of the conversation today, is how can companies embrace this idea of having somebody whose sole focus is on the wellness of their people, like that's not HR or, just a committee, but somebody who's like, this entire role and position is for wellness, So I want to explore that, but like so how long have you been in the industry, and then what was your catalyst to get into the industry?
Yeah. So I feel like I've been in the industry my whole life pretty much, because it's a family business that I'm a part of. So Houck was actually started by my grandfather, Lawrence, in 1947. So I'm third generation. So I would go to the office in the summers and help answer phones and help with paperwork. So I feel like I've been in it, my whole life. But then officially I worked for a year at my family company after college. and then ended up going to Wisconsin to work for another roofing company here for 3 years. My dad always thought it was important for both my brother and I to like get outside of the family business and try to work somewhere else to gain experience elsewhere. So you're not just at the family business, because that adds on like a whole other level of dimension when you're working with your family, you know? So it's good to get away
Right.
and just get a different experience. So I came to Wisconsin, worked for a roofing company for 3 years. So I guess that's like a total of 4 years. But then I took a break and decided that I needed something different. I needed to earn a job and, get a job because no one knew my dad or no one knew my last name. Like I needed to earn something for myself, and I wanted to just get out of construction and do my own thing for a while. And so I worked in healthcare IT for over a decade, which is nothing like construction, but it really kind of helped navigate my life to where I'm at now. It gave me experience from a clinical perspective, and I can go into some of that, but like I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't left construction. So
Yeah.
I was there, and then I came back to construction 2 years ago. So I feel like I've been in construction my whole life, but I guess doing the math, it's been about like 6 years officially.
Sure.
But I stepped away for a while in healthcare IT.
That's fair. You're one of a couple friends that I know whose family has started the company that they're at. The first episode that I did was with the vice president of the electrical company that I worked with.
Oh, at Mid-City.
At Mid-City. So he's of the Dew family, and the Dew family, James Dew started it, and Ryan is third generation like you, and so he went out and did his own thing for a while, and it seemed like that was really helpful for kind of like doing sort of like a mental reset.
Yeah.
Try something else.
For me, like if I went back to the company, I was supposed to go back. Like when I was in Madison at the roofing company, I actually went to grad school in the evenings during that time for my MBA. And the plan was like, you're going to go back, you're going to get involved in the family business. And it just wasn't something that I was ready for. And I felt like I was kind of doing it out of guilt and pressure and not because of me. And like, that's not good for anyone. Involved. So It was really good, I think, for me personally to have that kind of experience to, again, earn a job that no one knew me. I proved myself, but also just the experience that I gained working in healthcare software from the clinical side, like that. When I was there and I got to work on things that I care about, like mental health and suicide prevention from a professional perspective, that really just elevated my career in a way that it wouldn't otherwise have, because I had always cared about it personally, but I never really worked in it professionally.
Yes.
And you had mentioned the catalyst, and I can share with you kind of like why I care so much about this, if this is a good time.
So that's why I wanted to kind of get a framework for, how did you get into the industry, the background with your family. But yeah, you have found this place with suicide prevention and wellness and well-being in the industry. And like I said earlier, it's coming from a sincere place. I know a lot of your story. I probably don't know every aspect of it. But yeah, what was the catalyst that got you into well-being and suicide prevention?
Yeah. I lost my brother, Gary, to suicide in 2005. So it's been 20 years since I lost my brother. And since then, I cared about mental health because, I saw him struggle, and he was just such an amazing person, and he didn't always see it himself, and so my family losing him, it changed my world really. He is one of the most important people in my life. And so losing him just really meant so much to me. And since then, I've lost other people in my family too to suicide. So it's just something that has kind of, evolved around me. And I made a decision that, I'm going to care about this and I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to use my brother and others that I've lost, like use their memory and kind of let it drive me. And I really found that passion. I didn't really always consider myself like a helper or an advocate at that point. Like 20 years ago, I don't even think I knew what that meant or like
terminology,
how to do it. But I think my time away from construction, working in healthcare software, where I actually got to work on this from a clinical perspective and like learn more about it, understand it. Cause I didn't understand it at the time. I just knew my brother struggled and I knew, what his decision was, but I didn't know how I could have helped him or what the signs were or the risk factors. Like I didn't understand any of that way back when. So I used that time to better understand that for myself. Yeah. And when I was in healthcare software, I remember this was probably halfway through my career at this healthcare software company. They started these groups to work on healthcare issues in the country, like sepsis and childhood obesity and opioids, and suicide prevention was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I cared about suicide prevention. I'd lost people in my life to suicide, but I was in education as part of that software company. So I wasn't a developer. I didn't know how to code software. I'm thinking to myself, like, how do I do anything about this? Like, how do I make a difference? But I decided to volunteer and said to myself, Carrie, you can do it. You care about this. You can figure out a way to help. And I remember going to that first meeting, and there was some project that they wanted folks to like investigate and work on, because we wanted to build tools into the system to better identify patients at risk. And I volunteered for it, not knowing like anything. And that really kind of it led me on a path where ultimately I did learn a lot about it, and I got to work with clinicians and researchers from around the country on this stuff.
Wow.
And I ended up leading the work group. So I went to that meeting feeling like I didn't know anything. I couldn't really make a difference, but I just knew I cared and I wanted to try. And then by the end of my career, I was leading that work group. And it's one of the career highlights of my time there is being able to work with clinicians and put tools into the system and also help employees. I did a lot there for mental health for employees. The company was, I think when I left, over 13,000 employees. So I got to talk to all of them a couple times and, talk about mental health and taking care of yourself and what resources are there. And had I not volunteered that one time, even when I was scared, it wouldn't have led me to all of this and the knowledge that I was able to gain. So, loss of my brother really spurred me into learning more about it and got me to where I am today. And then I learned about the stats of construction, which we both know. Yep. And that's kind of really what took me back to construction, because I was like, wow, I have this opportunity. If my dad watches this, he's not old, but he's getting older. We're trying to figure out what to do. I'm not being mean, Dad, and telling people that you're old, but we had to figure out what to do with a company. And then I had this experience working in healthcare from, a clinical standpoint, and the numbers are just horrendous in construction. I was like, wow, like I can do something. I can make a difference. I can contribute to this movement. And when I first joined, I had no idea that there were other people like you and Sonia and others that also cared about this. So it's so refreshing to know that there's a whole group of people that care about this and are working towards it. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's what I love about your story too, is that so you took the absolute tragedy of losing your brother. You became a loss survivor yourself. You then went into this company, this healthcare IT, right? They gave you, you volunteered, and they gave you a little bit of like, hey, here's kind of a playground to play on around these topics, suicide prevention being one of them. And it allowed you time to be able to go and just experiment with advocacy. Right.
Yeah. And went to mental health first aid training and got additional training. And
yep. For companies out there that if you have people who are fired up about this, whether you have loss survivors or whether you have people that are just advocates who just care, give them room to go play.
Yeah, find them
and go and find them and give them room and permission and margin. Throw them a little budget to go and just play, And I think that's because every company, it's probably going to look a little bit different. But I can imagine that what you took from that experience at that healthcare IT company, you then were able to go and refit that over at Houck. So really, to me, it helped that the company allowed you to do that, helped build you as an advocate, which then everywhere you go now is going to be blessed by what you have built and what they allowed you to, experiment with. So the fact that Houck now has a chief wellness officer in you. So what did that look like as you transitioned back over to Houck? And what were those early conversations like?
Yeah, so we started having conversations once I learned about the stats of suicide in construction and realized there was an opportunity for me to focus on that, and mixed with the timing of my dad getting older, we started talking about me joining the board. So initially I just joined the board of the company and started learning more about the company, reintroducing myself. And then really, the folks at Houck and the board were so supportive of me. This is what I wanted to focus on. This is where I felt like I could add value, not just to Houck, but to the industry. And I wanted to focus on not just mental health, but all areas of wellness, because it's so interrelated. And they I don't think it was my idea. I can't remember who actually came up with the idea, but we talked about, let's have you just focus on this. Let's have you focus on health and wellness. I'm also part owner, so I have, other responsibility that comes with that. But
sure.
We came up with the name Chief Wellness Officer and talked more about like what that role would entail. And really, it's just me focusing on the health and wellness of our employees. And so I started off in September, almost 2 years ago, which was perfect because it was Suicide Prevention Month. I didn't plan it in construction suicide prevention. It just happened. So it was meant to be. Yep. And I just immediately started communicating, resources that we had. And then we looked into, what more can we do with our resources and how can we improve our EAP? But we just started communicating more. And I think, for people who know me, like you know that I care. Like I really truly do care about our employees and just people in general. So I want that to come across in all of my messaging. And so a lot of what I do is not just looking at improving benefits, but also just being there for people, training people. I'm a certified Vital Cog instructor. So we're focusing on getting people trained with Vital Cog and just communicating this out. We also changed our core values. So one of our core values is health. So it's really, it's the person, like, me as a chief wellness officer saying like, hey, I'm a part owner, I'm a leader of this company, and we care about this. I think setting the stage from the top level really means a lot, but there's so many other people at Houck who help me with this. But we kind of just started talking about, what can I focus on and what can I do? And it led us to having this specific role. And I know not everyone can, have a chief wellness officer. I recognize that there's different sizes of different companies, but there's still other things that people can do.
I think if we can get more companies to have a chief wellness officer, I mean, we have chief everything else. Why can't we have a chief? Why can't we have a chief wellness officer? We should, especially in industries like construction. Yeah. But I do think it's really important for other companies to hear that other companies like yours have taken that kind of step, because I think it gives them permission.
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment, and to step out into something that for other companies who aren't. I think it's if a company is reactive because they've lost somebody, it's a different conversation because they see it now. They're like, oh, and it's personal to them. The whole goal, and Sonia and I were talking, we talk about this all the time, helping convince companies to be proactive, which sometimes can be uncomfortable because not everybody is able to point at the thing that's like, oh, why? Why are we doing it? When everybody's just stuck in the groove and the rut of just of business, got to get the jobs done, got to get the jobs done, got to keep them profitable, and then it's hard to think outside of that, and we spent generations like that, just thinking that way. So to suddenly stop and be like, oh, wait, we need to kind of recalibrate and rewire our industry to where we focus on this, to where we're taking care of our people in a whole new way, and we need to normalize it. I think that's why it's so important what you and what Houck are doing by showing other companies this is a way to be able to like really prioritize it. Give somebody full margin to just focus on it. That's cool. To me, that's like one of my later questions in the podcast that I always get to for everybody, or I try to get to, is what do you believe the future of our industry looks like if people take this seriously? That's literally kind of what we want to have happen, Yeah. I think what Houck is doing represents what should be the future of our industry. That's just what we do.
Awesome. Yeah. It's exciting to think about that future. And I feel like even if you're listening and you feel like you can't have that position, you can have people in your marketing department work on this. You can have people in safety work on it. You can have people in HR. Like if you don't feel like you have the resources at this point to have a dedicated person, like there are other divisions that you can make sure that you're embedding it within your company still. So there's still avenues to do it. But yeah, I love the idea of others doing this too. I feel so lucky that Houck is prioritizing it and allows me to have this role.
Love that. That's fantastic. Is Houck, is this, have other companies around you guys, I guess since they're over in, where in Pennsylvania
it's like
are they?
Harrisburg area, but we have a couple other like branch locations. So Harrisburg, York, and
Do you know,
Central PA.
I know like my time over at Mid-City, they were so connected over at the Builders Exchange, their local Builders Exchange chapter, that like when we started doing suicide prevention and mental health support, other companies were starting to take notice and being like, okay, that's interesting. And then I had the chance to go speak for Builders Exchange stuff, and has there been any kind of similar sort of osmosis that's happened?
I would hope so. Like, I've definitely talked to a few companies about it. I don't know like how large it's going yet, but I know coming up in September, there's different insurance companies and trade organizations that I'm partnering with in Construction Suicide Prevention Week that they're hosting presentations for their members. So hopefully it's going to spread even more just by me sharing some more with people there.
I love it. So what does it look like? So over at Houck with the program that you're running, what is the program that you're running? What are the pieces of it? Again, I know that you and I both, Mental Health Month in May, Suicide Prevention Month in September. Yours is especially busy because also, and I didn't mention in the beginning, Kara is the vice chair of Construction Suicide Prevention Week, the nonprofit, that's helping program for Construction Suicide Prevention Week across the whole country. So those are two very important, weeks and months of the year. But I know for you guys, this is an all year long program. So what is that program? What does it look like?
Well, I'll first say it's still always in progress, right? Like we understand that we're not perfect. There's still so much more that we want to do, but only enough time in the day. So there's still other ideas that we have that we want to do. But some of the things, I think most of it comes down to just the culture of care that we have too. And that was before I came around, right? Like my grandfather, my dad, like I think part of this just comes down to owners and leaders like really truly caring about people and putting people first. So I think part of it is just that. And I mentioned about our core values, like we changed our core values recently. So health is one of them because we really want it to be just kind of the like embodied of the company. And then a lot of it has to do with the communication. And you said like those certain months, and we try to like look throughout the year and not just mental health, but like in March was colorectal cancer month. So how can we promote colorectal cancer and people getting their colonoscopies to stay healthy? So trying to fit in physical health things. And January was financial wellness month. So we did a financial education campaign and partner with a bank to come in and do financial education and make us a website. And so some of it is, kind of spreading it out throughout the year, tying it to some different things, but really focusing on financial health, physical health, mental health, and also social health. We have a committee. We call ourselves the Culture Committee. So again, it's not just me who's doing this stuff. The Culture Committee meets and we plan out social events throughout the year too to get people together, and they help with wellness planning as well. So some of it comes from that. Some of it's the benefits that we have. So thinking about what more we can do. And, you have to think obviously from a business financial perspective, like what makes sense for the company. But one of the things that we've changed is our employee assistance program. That's something that we always had. We never really told people about it. Like we didn't promote it. We had it. People didn't use it. So we increased it. So we had more sessions for free for employees, and we started promoting that like all the time, constantly throughout the year. And our numbers have increased so much from people using it. And that's so great to see. We've increased our 401k match too. So like little things, how can we improve benefits to help support people's overall health and wellness? I mentioned about Vital Cog training. So I train Vital Cog. I've trained around 50 employees so far, more to come hopefully in September when I'm back in Pennsylvania. We've always been doing it in person because I want to connect with people and meet them. We've grown as a company. So I might have to look into doing some virtual, but trying to, educate people on what the risk factors are for suicide prevention. How can you talk to someone? We've also had a smaller group go through mental health first aid training, that longer version of mental health first aid too, just to be more of a support system. So I think we try to see what we can do as far as benefits go, try to make sure that we're communicating that via email campaigns, text messages, posters, newsletters. We have a quarterly Houck Healthy newsletter. I'm just about to send one out this week for the quarter of different topics all around different health and wellness.
Yeah.
So trying to sprinkle it in just kind of like in the culture of the company of communicating this out. Again, more to come, doing some more work on opioids too. We have Narcan and all the first aid kits, and
love it.
Just want to keep going.
I love it. A couple things. So Houck Healthy, is that the name of the program?
Yes, that's the tagline. Yeah. We like the H's.
I love that. Well, I think, what did I say the other day? It was like Gilbane Cares. Like everybody's kind of like finding their program name, which I think is good,
Yeah.
To have that as sort of, this is under the umbrella of Houck Healthy. This is the program. And when you guys adopted, first of all, incredible. So all of those pieces are so absolutely necessary. I like that you guys, it seems like a lot of folks are finding that Vital Cog is a great 101 course, and Mental Health First Aid acts as almost like a 201.
Yeah.
Like it's way beefier, goes in much more in depth. It's a way bigger time commitment.
Right.
You know?
We had like our safety team and our HR team go
Yes.
through that, like folks who might interact with more
Yep.
people.
Yep. That's right. So when you guys rolled out, implementing Narcan, was that like an instant, like, hey, we're looking at the data on this, we've got to do something? Or did you experience a little bit of push?
So I'm trying to think, even when we did this, it must have been like 6 months or a year ago that we put Narcan in all the first aid kits. We're still working out the temperature limits on the box to see, like, from a liability standpoint, like having it on job sites, just because of if it's in a truck in the heat, we're still figuring out a policy with that. But we had the safety managers get trained, and then folks at each of the companies in each of the first aid kits. And I didn't really hear too much, about it, like pushback or anything. And then we just had, I guess it was in the spring, maybe March or April, we had safety training, our annual safety training, and I put together a video more about Narcan, like what it is, why we need it. Not that we suspect anyone would use it, but we need to be prepared in case of an emergency.
Right.
And just kind of, I think having it decreases the stigma around it, like just having it available. So I did this whole video, shared it with the safety team, and in some of the comments from the feedback from the safety training, people actually were asking for more of it, that more folks could have access to it. So I thought that was great. So we're looking at giving it to like superintendents and trying to expand that. Last week in Pennsylvania, which is I don't think it's nationwide, but in Pennsylvania, there's Construction Opioids Awareness Week. That's through Keystone Contractors.
Yeah.
And so we did like a daily email campaign about just safe disposal tips and, just opioid tips in general. If you do get injured, how to kind of talk to your doctor about that, more about Narcan. So that communication went out to everyone. And we purchased Dispose RX, I think it's called. It's those safe disposal packs that we provide for free to employees. And then we have little stickers for the insurance card that is supposed to prompt healthcare professionals to talk to you about it before you get it. So I don't think I've seen any pushback, but I think we're trying to do more with it.
Good. That to me is such a good sign. I think like when we first started rolling out the topic, like I think I brought it up at, maybe a year and a half ago, like just, hey, I think it was the first time Cal said like when he started talking about it, like he started at some point, Cal switched from like being very, suicide prevention focused. And then he jumped into the opioid crisis, and like saw, okay, this is the next thing we really need to tackle. And so I brought it up, and I felt like there was either immediate, like, absolutely, we should do something about this, or it was a lot of the political stigma around it, and the like, does this enable people by having this thing around, and like those kind of like, I knew those questions would pop up. I didn't think that they would happen so fast, but they did at the time. I think the conversation is softening though, and the fact that like you guys just rolled out this thing and got like immediately good feedback, and people even wanted more, that's incredible.
Yeah, I feel
that's
lucky
amazing.
that people seem so supportive of things. And I think hopefully people know that, why I care about this so much and why I'm doing it. Maybe they have feedback and they're just not telling me. I don't know. I hope not. I hope they're being honest.
To me, no, absolutely. But I mean, I think that's also another, having somebody like you, who you're a loss survivor, you have such a strong why behind all of this. People will follow a person before they'll follow a resource. People are following you. So over at Houck and in all of these different organizations that you're connected to, people are connected to you because you believe in this. And like, people want to be a part of that. People want to follow people who believe things. So to me, that's what's powerful about this movement and highlighting voices like yours, is because it empowers people to dive into the movement. But why? Because we just believe in it. Like that's what's powerful about all of this. So I think to me it's a healthy indicator that that's working when stuff like Narcan and like that whole thing, which is typically, was kind of stigmatized a little bit, I would say, that's softening. Because
and that's really what I want to do. I just want to soften that stigma as much as possible. And I mean, just the more we talk about it and the more that I bring it up, I just feel like I hope that people will reach out for help when they need it, because they've heard it multiple times from me and they know it's out there. But I think We just need to continue to talk about it and provide resources to start making changes too, and how we do things.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I love it. I think it's great. So there are, and I think that this is, like you're coming into this movement as a loss survivor. What advice would you give to other loss survivors out there about helping and advocating, in the journey that you've been on, and I'm sure the healing and the grief journey that you and your family have been on, what would you tell other folks who may be on that journey too?
Yeah, I think, well, first I'd say I'm sorry that you're going through it, but I think making sure that you take that loss and that grief, and if you feel ready or when you feel ready, trying to help about that, because you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a clinician. You don't have to be a mental health professional to be able to make a difference and to help. So find other groups that are doing this work. If you're in construction, look into CISP or CSPW. If, you're not in construction, you could do advocacy work through NAMI or AFSP. Like, there's so many great groups that are doing this work that you can get involved in. And I think for me, at least personally, I think it's helped my grief and my loss, because I still feel so close to my brother, like in the work that I do every day. Like, I know it's for him, and I know he is so proud of me. So for me, that helps that loss, because I just feel more connected to him. And I know that wouldn't be necessarily the same for everyone. Everyone has their own grief journey, but for me, I feel closer to him. And I would just say, I think my biggest piece of advice is, like, don't let you not being an expert stand in the way. Like, what if I'd never volunteered at that meeting at the company when I was scared? Like, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that, and we wouldn't be talking, So it's like just taking that one step. Even if you're scared, it's okay if you're not an expert. You can find ways to volunteer and to help out. And I think passion goes a long way.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of people need to hear that, as far as like feeling like they have permission to jump into something like this. I think, we have so many people who sit out, who are like, well, I'm just not the right person, or what can I contribute? And I'm like, no, we need as many voices to contribute this as humanly possible. I think especially in the world that we're in right now, where like we can't necessarily lean on the government or powers that be to like expand this movement and to contribute to it and to support it. So it really does come down to individuals and companies and like unions to step up and say, like, no, this is what's important. We want to protect people and take care of folks, So I just think that message that you just gave is one of the most important messages that we can get out there right now, is empowering people to step up, take their seat at the table, and start contributing their voice to this movement. Do you feel like this is the thing that you found that you want to do? This is going to be the rest of your life?
Yeah. This is what I'm meant to do, for sure.
Yep. So, and I think that's a sentiment that's shared by a lot of folks who've jumped into this and like found their footing and found their voice. And it's just like, no, this is all of this crazy windy path of life that got us here. It felt almost, if you look back on it, it almost felt a little inevitable,
Yeah, but you didn't know it was happening.
But you didn't know it was happening at the time. At the time it felt chaotic and insane, and oh my gosh! But now we're here, and we're like, oh no, okay, that makes sense. Wow, that's incredible. So, for other contractors, so right now I wanted you to speak to, and what advice would you give to other individuals?
Right,
but
and
also
how to do contractors. Yeah,
you're a co-owner of a company, who has a unique role, admittedly, right? But you're still a co-owner of a company. And how many people do you are at Houck?
Around 500 now.
So it's not a small company. Like, you probably represent, the medium to large size companies that are in a bigger city. Like that's like, these are, and remind me too, what is your guys' scope? Like, what do you guys do?
We do a lot of different things. We're a specialty commercial contractor and have a few different divisions. So we do roofing, flooring, masonry, concrete restoration, electrical, industrial welding. So yeah, a bunch.
You're like jack of all trades. You guys do everything. That's incredible. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you guys
acquired companies over time and kind of expanded to diversify.
Got it. That's still cool though. That makes you guys kind of like a Swiss Army knife, a little bit of like what you guys can offer. That's really cool. Talking to other mid to large size companies, what would you advise them? What words of advice would you give them to get started on this journey of just making wellness and well-being as just normal and standard as what Houck does? Like, give them that first little kick in the butt to get started.
So I would say you need to do something, and what you do can make a difference. Even if it's something small, that could be something that saves someone's life. Like literally, that could be something that saves someone's life. So I think contractors, regardless of the size, like you have the opportunity to save people's lives. And we always talk about physical safety, right? And like that's obviously so important. But we both know that more people die by suicide than by all worker-related fatalities. So it's mental health safety, like that is so important. So I think contractors really have a responsibility to keep their employees safe and healthy. And so you might not be able to have a chief wellness officer, but I guess I'd urge them to consider like having a specific role around it. Maybe it's not that term. So I think dedicating people to the movement, to health and wellness, I think is the first step. And then I would encourage contractors to not recreate the wheel. It's not like you have to write all the content. You don't have to do all the stuff yourself, like especially if you don't have the resources. Like there are so many free tools out there. Paul, you mentioned we work together on Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. They have so many great tools. Toolbox Talks. They have, that MindWise screening tool. They have Living Works training for free up to 5 people. Like they have so many free resources and tools that you can use. There's also Construction Suicide Prevention Week. You mentioned I'm vice chair of that. If you didn't know, it's September 8th to the 12th. So please check out our website and participate for free. We have so many free resources like Toolbox Talks and stand down agendas and different webinars and videos that you can learn more. So it's not like contractors have to create this content themselves. They just need to make an effort and a decision like, yes, we're going to focus on this. We're going to let people know that we care about it, that we prioritize it, and then use those resources and try to embed it within to physical safety if you can, like by doing Toolbox Talks. It's just, there's so much out there. And I'm so excited, Paul, for the pathway, from CISP, because I think that's going to help people know where to go and what to do, what trainings are out there, just where everything is. And I think that can be that one-stop shop for construction companies to go to say, okay, I want to do something. What do I do first? Where can I find this information? But just know that you don't have to create it yourself. There's so much out there to use.
100%, 100%. And that is, I mean, I remember when we lost, when I was with Mid-City and we lost our foreman to suicide. And I remember first looking for stuff out on the internet. So 3 years ago, only 3 years ago, I'm looking out there and it was hard to find stuff.
And
just
now there's
3 years ago. Yeah. And then now, like, we have so much stuff that's out there. That's how like potent this movement is and how fast it's moving. So like, yeah, the pathways model that you and I have been working on with Sonia, that's the whole purpose of it, is that from, the time a company decides, hey, we want to do something about this, to the time that they have a full blown program up and running, they have a game plan. They have a whole thing laid out, letting them know what are all the pieces of a program that are effective, that help create an effective program. And we're still working on that. The whole goal is to create a interactive website that people can go in and click around and then link to resources that are sitting out there and trainings and all that stuff. Right. So that's just it's an exciting and very at this time, like if a company is thinking about diving into this movement, there's not a whole lot of excuse not to.
There's so much out there.
Yeah. 100%. Yep. Agreed. So, oh gosh, that's so good. It's been so fun working on that thing too. Yeah. Like I always look forward to those meetings. I know that it's, because you can see fruit from it and things are just moving along. And I just think that the impact that it'll have will be so big. And talk to me too about, for Construction Suicide Prevention Week, what all do companies do to program around that? What does that look like?
Yeah.
I know you guys provide stuff, but like, what do companies typically do in a week like that?
Yeah. So on Monday, there is a national stand down of moment of silence that companies can participate in. It's like a 1-minute moment of silence. We also are offering a pledge this year that you can like print out and distribute to your employees to have them pledge to check in on someone during the week, because, building community and having that connection is so important. I think a lot of construction companies will just do a toolbox talk, which is great. We have 9 with more to come that you can pick and do a toolbox talk with your crew that week. There's a supply shop. So if you wanted to actually purchase supplies, you could do that. You could do training. So like for us, for, construction suicide prevention at Houck, I'm going to be doing some vital cog training, and there's other presentations that I'm doing. So I think it's really kind of a pick your own adventure, what companies feel comfortable doing. But I think it's just picking at least one thing. Maybe it's an email, that you send to people and remind them about your EAP, and this is the week. Maybe you bring someone in. We have a speaker sourcing guide. I should make sure that you're on there, Paul. Did I add you on that? There's a speaker sourcing guide that has, from around the country, different speakers who will come and speak on those topics. So if you want to actually invest in someone coming on site, you could have them speak, or you could do something simple and free like a toolbox talk. So there's a lot of different options, but really it's just meant to raise awareness around the topic in that week and bring everyone together and spread the movement even more.
I love it. And for companies out there that don't have a program started, but they want to start it, using Suicide Prevention Week as your kickoff.
Yeah, kickoff. That's great.
Do it. Absolutely. I think that's a way of like it's unified. A lot of other companies are doing it too, about observing that week, and then out of that, launch into your program, and whatever that program ends up looking like, scaled to your company. So I think that's huge. So talk to me about, we already teased this question earlier, but I always want to look at the future and dream about the future. Cause I think that's like, our eyes should always be on the vision. We have our immediate mission items, but like we always should be looking at that, what seems to be unattainable goal of vision. It's just like the pie in the sky. But it's the thing that drives us. It's the belief that things can be better, and that we can have a healthier industry, and an industry where this is just normal. We take care of people, a kinder industry. So tell me, what does the industry look like in the future, from your perspective? What's that vision look like to you?
I love this question. It's so exciting and hopeful to think about, like to dream about that. And I do feel like the work that we're doing now is going to get us there. I think for me, thinking about what that will look like is just mental health is equally as important as physical health. We don't just talk about physical safety. We also talk about mental health and making sure that people are mentally okay. And I think just normalizing that and like leveling the playing field and them just being equal, that's my dream, and for people to actually prioritize it and spend that time and the effort and the resources and actually really focus on it. I think leveling that out is so important. And it's just like so hopeful again to think about like that could be the case. And ultimately I'd love, the suicide numbers to drop, right? Like I want to save lives. Like I want it to be a healthier, safer workforce, that we're not losing people. So I think, and I guess too, like thinking about the families, like thinking about that dream in the future. Like I want families not to lose their people, like I want construction workers to come home safe every day because they were safe physically, they were safe mentally, they came back to the job site the next morning, and like their family members have them. And I want to live in a world where we don't lose people to this.
I agree. I think it's to me the future. We're honoring those that we've lost, but we're also protecting and saving folks
the future
at the same time. So your mom, you've got 2 kids, you dove into this movement. How has that impacted your family?
Yeah, I think my boys are still a little young. Like they know about Uncle Gary passing away, but they don't know how he passed away. Like we talk a lot about him. He's a part of our lives, and they know that he was sick, but they don't necessarily know, how he died. But I've tried to talk more about the work that I do with them. And I kind of frame it as I'm keeping people healthy. Like I'm making sure that they're safe and they're healthy and their body's healthy and their mind's healthy. And I've talked more, especially to my almost 10-year-old son, Dean, about mental health. And he conned me into buying Joyride candy at the grocery store last week because he said it would be good for his mental health because it tastes so good and it would bring him joy. And I'm like, oh, darn it. Like, he knows that it's important.
He added it as a manipulation tool.
Yeah. So I think, it's brought up more open conversations with my family, but they're still at such a young age that they don't know the extent as to, what we do.
Sure. I asked that. It's been really interesting diving into this work with having two little kids and my wife. My wife, I don't know, what does Kyle do?
He works for the same healthcare company, the healthcare software company that I worked for.
Okay.
So he's been there for 18 years this August. So he actually works on physician well-being and making angry doctors who don't like the software better at the software so they're happier.
I feel like that's very important because the number of doctors that I've met who are just really mad about the computer world, that makes sense to me. That's totally fair. So that's awesome. I asked that only because it feels like folks in the movement who have families who, like, I think you and I are kind of, I think age-wise, you and I are close. Our boys are like similar in age, in the age range. And it's been really interesting to see this whole thing has osmosis, that when you advocates who are pouring their life into something, this isn't just, some of it's a paycheck. Like I run my own business, and that's, I'm making a living off of this and supporting my family. But to me, that's a byproduct of a mission, and I know that's the same for you.
Yeah. I tell Dean all the time, like, I love you always, no matter what. Like when you're sad, when you're happy, like, and if you're ever sad, you can talk to me. Like we just always talk about that. I really drive that into him, that I want him to always know that there's help out. And I've told him that too. Like, if you're ever going through a hard time, there's help out there. And sometimes I think it's over his head. Like he's not old enough to understand, but I still like drill it in. Yeah,
it is. It's interesting. And Mo's growing up. He's going to be 9 here in August. And the boy is, I'd say, osmosis of what I do in my work. And then plus movies like Inside Out. That boy understands his emotions. Holy cow. Like he is very, very, very in tune. If anything, if I go out and do a training on emotional intelligence and I'm asking a bunch of like corporate folks to be like, hey, I want you to practice just identifying what you're feeling. Identify it in one word. Moses has a vocabulary list this long of words of emotions that he's feeling. And I think some of that is like when you're in the advocacy world and you dive into this, there is an osmosis that happens around you and your family. And to me, it's something to think about from a self-care standpoint, because sometimes it can be like, oh my gosh, okay, I do a ton of mental health stuff at work, but then also when I'm done working, I'm finding that my family is very in tune with their emotions and talks about mental health a lot too. Like it's like the topic sort of like is following you everywhere you go now, And so I think it's important to like figure out what does self-care look like and what does it look like to pause and just be. And what does that look like for you?
Self-care is like an in-progress thing for me because I'm always so focused on everyone else, so I think that's a constant reminder for myself to, to take care of myself and remember that I need time too. And it might be simple, like I'm getting my nails done this week, so I'm excited about that, and that always makes me feel good,
Is that actually happening?
No, it is. It is really. I'm getting my nails done this week, so I'm excited.
Do a thing. Good. You're doing a thing.
It's always a reminder that I have to remind myself about.
Good. And finding your things. I think that's it's so important. That's one of the things that I'm hoping that we can focus on at with the Working Minds Summit coming up in
I'm
next
excited
year,
for that.
And I am too. But I think
I'll
that
see
is I think so. Yeah, I'm planning on being there. But I think one of the things that I keep hearing too in the advocacy world, the people who are just who've poured their life into this work now, and this have found purpose, and this is what we want to do for the rest of our lives, which is beautiful. But also it can be absolutely exhausting, like mentally taxing to constantly be thinking about other people's needs and just be pouring yourself out for other people and this movement all the time, that we're having to recalibrate and retrain ourselves to be thinking about what's pouring in to us.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that that's something that we can focus on. And I'm guilty of this more than anybody. Like I just pour myself out and go. I will,
Same.
if somebody needs something, I will beeline to it, and hell or high water, I'm going to go help that person. But I'll get to the point where I'm running on E, running low.
It's a good reminder for both of us to
I think
remember
so
ourselves. Yeah.
I think it's important. I wanted to hear that from like your perspective on that as well, because I think other people need to hear that too. Thank you for jumping on today.
This
oh my gosh.
So lovely.
Yes. How can people reach you and stay connected to you?
On LinkedIn, and I think it's just Kara McCaffrey. I don't know what the tagline is. When you put this out there, you could tag me on LinkedIn if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. For any company out there who's like trying to figure out this whole program thing, or like, how do you get started with it? Reach out to Kara. You should talk to her. You'll also just walk away feeling warm and encouraged. Oh. But then also you're going to walk away with actionable steps on what you can do as a company to take care of people better. So I thank you once again, thank you so much for being on today. It was a lovely conversation, and absolutely. And if you guys are tuning in, thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Paul Lawson Chats, and we will catch you on the next episode. See ya.